I lost an entire bed of tomatoes one summer and could not figure out why. The soil was rich, the watering was consistent, the sun was perfect. Every condition was right. The plants looked fine for weeks, and then slowly, one by one, they started to wilt and struggle and produce almost nothing. And then my neighbor leaned over the fence and pointed to the tall, feathery plant I had put right beside them 2 months earlier. Fennel. She shook her head and said, "Oh, sweetheart, those two should never be anywhere near each other." I had never heard that in my life, and I have been gardening for over 30 years. What I learned that summer changed the way I plan my entire garden. Because certain plants are secretly poisoning each other through the soil, competing in ways you cannot see, and quietly destroying the results you have worked so hard for. Not because anything is wrong with your soil or your technique, simply because those two plants should never have been neighbors in the first place. Today I am going to share 7 of the most common and most damaging planting combinations that gardeners make every single season without realizing it. If any of these are in your garden right now, do not worry. I will tell you exactly what to do about it. If you are new here, welcome to the Gardening Grandma. Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a tip, and let us get into it. Combination 1, tomatoes and fennel, the hidden poison. Let me start with the combination that cost me an entire summer's harvest, because I do not want it to cost you yours. Tomatoes and fennel. Fennel is a beautiful plant, tall, feathery, fragrant, and incredibly useful in the kitchen. And that is exactly why so many gardeners tuck it into their vegetable beds without a second thought. I did it myself for years. Here is what most gardeners never discover until the damage is already done. Fennel is allelopathic. That is a word that means it releases natural chemicals into the surrounding soil that are toxic to nearby plants. This is not something you can see or smell. It happens underground, quietly, over weeks and months. And by the time your tomatoes start showing symptoms, the fennel has already been poisoning the soil around them the entire season. Tomatoes are one of the plants most sensitive to fennel's chemical compounds. You will see poor fruit set, stunted growth, wilting that does not respond to watering, and yields that are a fraction of what they should be. And because the symptoms look like a dozen other problems, most gardeners never identify the real cause. My rule now is simple. Fennel gets its own dedicated spot in the garden, completely away from everything else. A container works beautifully if space is limited. Kept isolated, fennel is wonderful. Planted near your vegetables, it is a quiet disaster. Combination 2, mint and everything else, the bully of the herb garden. Our second combination might surprise you because it is not about one plant poisoning another. It is about one plant simply refusing to share space with anything. Mint and every other herb or plant you put near it. Now, I adore mint. I grow spearmint, peppermint, and chocolate mint in my garden, and I use them constantly. But mint has a personality that I can only describe as deeply selfish. It spreads through underground runners called rhizomes that travel fast, travel far, and root wherever they touch soil. Left unchecked, mint will consume the space of every nearby plant, stealing water, nutrients, and root space until nothing else can thrive. I have seen mint completely overtake a raised herb bed in a single season. Parsley, chives, oregano, thyme, all of them struggling or gone, with mint filling every corner. It does not mean to cause harm. It simply cannot stop itself. The solution I have used for 20 years is beautifully simple. Grow mint in a container. You can sink the container directly into the ground if you want that natural look. The mint believes it has freedom and stays happy, but the container walls stop the runners from invading your other plants. Every benefit of mint, none of the chaos. Drop a comment below right now and tell me, do you grow mint in your garden? And has it ever gotten away from you? I have a feeling I am not the only one with a mint story. I read every single comment and I love hearing from you. Combination 3, onions and beans, the unlikely enemies. Here is one that genuinely surprises most gardeners, including ones who have been at this for decades. Onions and beans planted near each other. You would never think of these two as a problem pairing. They are both common, both productive, both simple to grow. But onions, along with garlic, leeks, and chives, release sulfur compounds into the soil that actively inhibit the growth of beans and peas. These compounds interfere with the beneficial soil bacteria that legumes like beans depend on to fix nitrogen and thrive. What you typically see is beans that germinate and start well, but then plateau. They grow slowly, produce fewer pods, and seem to struggle without any obvious cause. The onions, meanwhile, look perfectly fine. They are the ones doing the damage, but showing none of it. This pairing is particularly heartbreaking because both plants look healthy for so long that gardeners rarely connect the problem to the combination. They adjust the water, change the fertilizer, blame the weather, and never identify the real issue. Keep your alliums, your onions, garlic, leeks, and chives on the opposite side of the garden from your beans and peas. Both will perform dramatically better for it. I rearranged my vegetable beds with this in mind about 15 years ago, and my bean harvest improved noticeably the very first season. Combination 4, cucumbers and sage, the quiet slowdown. Now for a combination from the urban vegetable garden that I see constantly in gardening books and planting guides, cucumbers and sage. And I want to gently correct something that many gardeners have been told. Sage is a wonderful herb. It is hardy, fragrant, beautiful, and useful for so many things in the kitchen and the garden. But cucumbers are one of the plants that sage can negatively affect. The aromatic oils that sage releases, the same ones that make it so fragrant and so useful as a pest deterrent, can slow cucumber growth when the two are planted in close proximity. What you tend to see is cucumbers that produce less than expected, fewer fruits, slower development, vines that seem sluggish compared to cucumbers grown elsewhere. Again, nothing dramatic, just a garden that is working harder than it needs to and yielding less than it should. Sage grows beautifully near brassicas, cabbage, broccoli, kale, where its pest-repelling properties are a genuine benefit and cause no harm. Move it away from your cucumbers, and you will likely see your cucumber harvest improve without changing anything else at all. If you are finding these tips useful, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button and joined our little community here at the Gardening Grandma. I share new gardening wisdom every single week, and there is so much more I want to share with you. Combination 5, peppers and fennel, the same villain returns. I want to come back to fennel for our 5th combination because I want to make sure this one lands clearly. Fennel does not just harm tomatoes. It harms peppers just as severely. And because peppers are slower growing and more sensitive than tomatoes, the damage can be even more discouraging. Peppers planted near fennel will struggle to set fruit, grow slowly, and often produce a harvest that is a fraction of their potential. The allelopathic compounds fennel releases into the soil do not discriminate. They affect a wide range of vegetables and herbs, and peppers are among the most vulnerable. If you grow both fennel and peppers, keep fennel well away from your vegetable garden entirely. At least 10 to 15 feet of separation or in a dedicated container is my personal rule. Your peppers will thank you with a harvest that actually reflects all the care you put in. Combination 6. Black walnut trees in almost everything. The underground threat nobody talks about. This next one is not about two plants you choose to put together. It is about a tree you may already have in or near your garden that could be silently damaging everything around it. The black walnut tree. Black walnut trees produce a chemical called juglone through their roots, leaves, and husks. Juglone is toxic to a remarkable range of plants: tomatoes, peppers, roses, rhododendrons, blueberries, apples, and many more. And the reach of a black walnut's root system extends far beyond the canopy of the tree, sometimes 50 feet or more in every direction. This means you can have a beautiful black walnut tree at the edge of your property, and it can be killing plants in your vegetable bed 30 feet away without you ever making the connection. If you have a black walnut nearby and have struggled to grow tomatoes or peppers in certain spots of your garden for years, this may be exactly why. The solution is either to move your vulnerable plants well outside the root zone, or to choose juglone-tolerant plants for those affected areas. Hostas, astilbes, ferns, and many ornamental grasses tolerate juglone beautifully. This is one of those garden mysteries that once you know it, you cannot unknow it. And so many gardeners spend years frustrated by this exact problem without ever finding the answer. Combination 7. Sunflowers and potatoes, the underground battle. And our final combination is one that breaks many gardeners' hearts because both of these plants are so beloved. Sunflowers and potatoes. Sunflowers are among the most cheerful, generous plants in any garden. They attract pollinators, produce edible seeds, and bring a joy to the garden that few other plants can match. But sunflowers are also allelopathic. Like fennel, they release chemicals through their roots that suppress the growth of nearby plants. And potatoes are particularly sensitive to those compounds. Potatoes planted near sunflowers tend to produce significantly smaller yields. The tubers develop poorly. The plants struggle without obvious cause, and the harvest disappoints relative to what the same variety produces elsewhere in the garden. The simple fix is to give sunflowers their own dedicated border or cutting garden well away from your vegetable beds. They make spectacular back borders along fences and walls. They grow happily together in large groupings, and kept away from your potatoes, they cause no harm whatsoever. You get all the beauty and joy of sunflowers without sacrificing your harvest. There you have it, my dear gardening friends. 7 combinations that are quietly causing problems in gardens everywhere. And now you know exactly what to look for. Tomatoes and fennel. Keep fennel isolated completely. Mint and other plants. Contain it in a pot. Onions and beans, and keep them on opposite sides of the garden. Cucumbers and sage. Move the sage to your brassicas, peppers, and fennel. The same rule applies. Black walnut trees. Identify the root zone and plant accordingly. And sunflowers and potatoes, give the sunflowers their own beautiful space away from the vegetable bed. None of these combinations are disasters you cannot recover from. Now that you know, you can make one simple change this season and watch your garden respond. Plants that have been struggling will suddenly thrive. Harvests that have been disappointing will surprise you. And you will have the quiet satisfaction of knowing why. Which of these surprised you the most? I genuinely want to know. Drop it in the comments below. And if this video saved your garden from one of these combinations, please share it with a fellow gardener who needs to hear it. If you are not subscribed yet, please do join us. I share new gardening wisdom every single week, and this community we are building together is one of the true joys of my week. Until next time, happy gardening, take care of yourselves, and take care of those beautiful gardens of yours.